Burundi is a landlocked country in the African Great Lakes region, bordering Rwanda, Tanzania, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In the pre-colonial period, the main ethnic groups inhabiting this land were the Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa. Burundi's pre-colonial history centers on the formation and development of the Burundi Kingdom, a significant political entity in the Great Lakes region established by the Tutsi. The earliest inhabitants of Burundi were the Twa, a pygmy hunter-gatherer group. Around 800 AD, the Hutu, Bantu-speaking agriculturalists, migrated from the west and began to settle. In the early 16th century, Tutsi pastoralist tribes from the north, possibly the Ethiopian highlands, gradually arrived on the Burundi plateau and established a kingdom ruled by kings.
With their advanced livestock-rearing skills and military strength, the Tutsi gradually gained control over the Hutu and Twa, laying the foundation for the Burundi Kingdom. Historians still debate the exact origins of the Tutsi and the timeline of the kingdom's founding, and more research is needed. The Burundi Kingdom was a highly centralized monarchy. The king held ultimate authority, supported by a Tutsi aristocracy that dominated wealth and politics. This sharply contrasted with the lives of ordinary Hutu farmers and lower-status Tutsi commoners. Still, despite these political divisions, the Hutu and Tutsi shared similar languages, cultures, and customs and interacted frequently in daily life. As a result, ethnic identity in pre-colonial Burundi was relatively fluid, with little ethnic hostility. From the late 18th to the 19th century, the kingdom expanded and thrived under strong monarchs. King Gisabo and his successors expanded the territory through military conquests to the south of Bujumbura and west of Lake Tanganyika. Within the kingdom, the Tutsi nobility, through clientship networks called Ubuhake, consolidated their rule. They granted royal land and cattle to Hutu followers in exchange for labor and military service. This feudalized social structure planted the seeds of future ethnic tensions in Burundi. In the late 19th century, as European powers scrambled for Africa, Burundi did not escape colonization. From 1890 to 1962, it was successively ruled by Germany and Belgium, bringing profound transformations. Following the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, Burundi was assigned to German East Africa. However, due to its remote inland location, German colonial control did not begin until 1896.
Burundi's king Gisabo led a fierce resistance against the German invaders, but faced with their advanced weaponry, he was ultimately forced to sign a protection treaty in 1903, recognizing German rule. This treaty, signed in Kiganda, remains a key symbol of Burundi-Germany historical relations. The Germans introduced new cash crops like coffee and cotton to Burundi, initiating a nascent commodity economy. They also promoted currency circulation and elementary education. However, German rule overall was loose and did not fundamentally alter the social structure. During World War I, Belgian forces entered from Congo and occupied Burundi and Rwanda. After the war, the Treaty of Versailles assigned Burundi to Belgium as a trust territory. The Belgian administration adopted this reinforced the hierarchical nature of Burundian society. The Belgians manipulated the lifestyle differences between Hutu and Tutsi, interpreting them as ethnic characteristics and introducing biased policies in education and politics. They designated Hutu as agriculturalists and Tutsi as pastoralists, restricting Hutu access to education and political advancement. This artificial identity fixation and segregation intensified ethnic divisions in Burundi. Although Belgium invested in infrastructure such as roads, schools, and hospitals, these projects largely served colonial interests and did not truly benefit the people. By the 1950s, an independence movement began to emerge in Burundi.
On July 1, 1962, the Burundi Kingdom declared independence, ending the long colonial rule.
After gaining independence from Belgium in 1962, Burundi plunged into decades of political turmoil and ethnic conflict. Key events in the early years of independence set the tone for Burundi's subsequent trajectory. In the May 1965 parliamentary elections, a Hutu majority party won a sweeping victory. However, the Tutsi king Mwambutsa IV refused to appoint a Hutu prime minister and instead chose his confidant, Biha, triggering strong Hutu discontent. In October of the same year, a group of Hutu officers launched a coup in Bujumbura, attempting to overthrow the monarchy. The coup failed quickly due to prior leaks, but its consequences were far-reaching. The king launched a brutal crackdown on Hutus, killing thousands and forcing many Hutu elites into exile.
Hutu influence in politics and the military was further marginalized during this turbulent time. On July 8, 1966, the king's son, Charles Ndizeye, staged a palace coup, forcing his father into exile and crowning himself as Ntare V. However, the young king soon clashed with the powerful Tutsi elite, sparking another severe power crisis. On November 28, 1966, Tutsi officer Michel Mikombero overthrew Ntare V while he was visiting Congo. Mikombero abolished the centuries-old monarchy and proclaimed the Republic of Burundi, naming himself the country's first president. Burundi thus entered a long and difficult period of military rule. These early post-independence political events clearly exposed the deep and lasting ethnic divisions in Burundi's society.
With Belgium's legacy of divide and rule, the conflicting interests of Hutus and Tutsis became irreconcilable, and the collapse of the monarchy plunged the country into turmoil. Mikombro's regime marked the Tutsi elite's full control of Burundian politics, relegating Hutu was engulfed in prolonged internal strife and ethnic violence. The 1972 Hutu uprising was particularly brutal. Regime changes under Bagaza and Buyoya dominated this period. On April 29, 1972, Hutus in southern Burundi, incited by the extremist group UPRONA, launched a rebellion and attacked Tutsi civilians. The rebellion spread rapidly, causing thousands of deaths within the first week. The Mikombro government responded with extreme brutality.
Over the following months, the military and police systematically massacred Hutu elites and intellectuals. According to UN reports, between 100,000 and 200,000 Hutus were killed. Meanwhile, a large number of Hutu refugees fled to neighboring countries. This tragedy effectively wiped out the Hutu elite class. It severely intensified the hatred and division between Hutus and Tutsis. On November 1, 1976, Mikombero's regime was overthrown in a bloodless coup, and Bagaza took power. He attempted to ease ethnic tensions through economic and educational reforms, but with only limited success. His increasingly authoritarian rule provoked opposition from groups like the Catholic Church, eventually leading to his ousting in a 1987 coup by Major Buyoya. Buyoya continued the Tutsi-dominated regime and actively suppressed political opposition.
However, facing internal and external pressure, he was forced to begin limited democratic reforms. The Hutu massacre of 1988, on the 30th anniversary of the 1972 genocide, once again highlighted the urgency of national reconciliation and democratic change. The 1972 genocide was the darkest chapter in Burundi's history. This tragedy tore the country apart, deepened inter-ethnic hatred and mistrust, and became the psychological root of future conflicts. It also drew international attention to Burundi's human rights situation. Though the reforms during the Bagaza and Buyoya periods contributed somewhat to economic growth and education, they failed to address the core issues of ethnic inequality and instead entrenched Tutsi elite privilege. This provoked strong discontent among Hutus, fueling the democratic wave of the late 1980s.
In the early 1990s, under domestic and international pressure, Burundi embarked on democratization. The presidential election in June 1993 was the first democratic vote in the country's history. Hutu candidate Melchior Ndadaye won and was elected, opening a new chapter of democratic politics in Burundi. However, the good times did not last. On October 21 of the same year, Ndadaye was assassinated in a military coup at the age of 40. His death, as Burundi's first democratically elected president, sparked a nationwide inferno of ethnic violence. Tutsi forces launched retaliatory massacres against Hutu civilians, and Hutu militias responded with brutal killings of Tutsis. Burundi soon descended into a full-scale civil war. The war lasted until 2005. Despite numerous ceasefire agreements, most collapsed due to poor implementation.
Both sides committed crimes against humanity and carried out multiple massacres. According to investigations by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the war caused around 300,000 deaths, though some studies estimate slightly fewer. Large numbers of civilians were displaced, and the economy suffered severe damage. Notably, in the late 1990s, under mediation from South Africa, Tanzania, and others, both sides signed the historic Arusha Agreement, laying the groundwork for peace. However, fully implementing democracy and healing the scars of war still requires sustained international support and tireless efforts by the Burundian people. In the 21st century, driven by regional and international actors, Burundi's peace process made significant progress. The Arusha Peace and Reconciliation Agreement, signed in August 2000, marked the end of the long civil war.
The Arusha Accord provided a comprehensive reconciliation framework, including power sharing and military reform, and transitional justice mechanisms. Under the agreement, Burundi established a national unity government with proportional power sharing between Hutu and Tutsi elites. Though not perfect, this arrangement brought precious peace to Burundi. In 2005, Burundi held democratic elections. The former main Hutu rebel group, CNDD-FDD, transitioned into a political party and won the election. Its leader, Pierre Nkurunziza, became president, the first democratically elected Hutu president in Burundi's history. After taking office, Nkurunziza focused on post-war reconstruction and development. With support from the United Nations and other international organizations, the Burundian government repaired infrastructure, improved livelihoods, and developed agriculture and tourism. Despite numerous challenges, the Burundian people demonstrated remarkable resilience and development potential. The peaceful transition of 2005 gave Burundi a clear direction away from war toward democracy and a hopeful future. Though ethnic tensions and political divisions have not been fully resolved, Burundi now stands at the starting line of a bright future. The international community should continue supporting Burundi's peaceful development so that this war